What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, and today we're back with a post-mortem of the 2024 election and how I have improved the election model for 2028. Hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this, and follow me on X to check out my updates. I actually just went to AmFest, which is a big convention. You see me here thanking Charlie Kirk and TPUSA and Turning Point Action for putting the event together. Met Myron Gaines from the Fresh and Fit podcast, Brick Suit Guy, Alex Stein, Roger Stone. Saw Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen Reports and Ready Go Politics, as well as seeing President Trump speak at the event, Congressman Matt Gaetz as well. We also have Monsieur Z as well. We currently also see here the Shawman from January 6th, as well as Adam from Valuetainment, Adam Sosnick. So it was a very, very fun event. Shaney Rich, he's the guy who does street interviews for people, voters, just asking them who they vote for. Bo Loudon as well. So this was a great time. Officer Tatum, Scott Presler was also there as well. So we had a pretty good time. We even recorded a little segment with me, Ready Go Politics, and Vince Dow. That clip will be coming out soon. I'll probably be posting it on the channel as well. So guys, make sure to follow me on X to check out all of my updates as of right now. But looking at this full post-mortem of the 2024 election, we see that Donald Trump won 312 electoral college votes. He won the popular vote by almost about like a point and a half. That's kind of what it seems like to be right now. And we look at my official scorecard and we see on point. So this was my original forecast. And then we have the improved model, which is a version of my 2028 model that I've been using in my recent videos. And you can see that the model is significantly better on average than my original model from the election. So this is the model that I will be using going forward in 2028. So the way it's going to work now is we're going to be using approval ratings. Now you may say, why are we going to be using approval rating differences for the candidates? Well, I actually went back to civics.com. You can see here they have all of these high sample responses of disapproval ratings of not only just nationally, but in every single state. You actually end up getting the national approval rating of certain figures, and they update this over time, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be updating it for the 2028 election as well. You can see right now Donald Trump nationwide is fairly popular, even taking the lead in the state of Arizona, which is very interesting. Typically, he has a disapproval rating in the state. He even took the lead in Ohio and is in single-digit disapproval ratings in the Rust Belt. And you see now Kamala Harris has now dipped quite significantly since the election, and we can see that unfold in the Electoral College map here, where it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough, and the reason why she lost was because of the economy, illegal immigration, the culture war about LGBTQ. She did not appeal to independent Americans on these issues, and Republicans got out and voted. They didn't. You did have a lot of crossover vote for Kamala Harris from the Republican side more than Democrats for Trump, but there were so many Republicans that turned out compared to Democrats that actually offset the split vote. And you see here that Donald Trump absolutely crushed it in the swing states. He won Arizona by 5.5 points, which is where AmFest was actually held in the Phoenix Convention Center. I think that Charlie Kirk has a major play as to why Arizona was such a big win for Trump. I actually think that they legitimately had an impact on the state's result. And we see here that the president absolutely smoked her in the Electoral College. He improved in Florida by quite substantial amounts. I had in the original model, I think it was Trump plus 13.9. Now the model has it as Trump plus like 10 or something like that. I think the new model has Texas Trump plus 8. So the model, the new one, this is the new one for 2024. This is the adjusted model. So the exact same demographic model that I used in the original one. You have the county shift map, and then you also have the approval rating split. And you can see that this would have been far more accurate relative than it would have been, with the original model. Some states, it actually nails it within like half a point. Some states are kind of off by a few points. But when you look at the official scorecard, the original model that I ended up using had an error of R plus 3.9, or basically R plus 4. And you see that the average error for the improved model for 2028, testing it back to 2024, is 0.1. And that assumes that I would have gotten the national popular vote accurate. And I kind of have a new system ready to aggregate the polling as well for that issue. So we see that this model on average was far more accurate than really most of the modeling out there, and is far more accurate than the model that I ended up using in the 2024 election. Again, some of the margins are off by like a couple of points, but for the most part, on average, the model is significantly better at showing the wide electorate of the election than the original model I ended up using, which had Minnesota and New Hampshire flipping Republican, two states that I ended up predicting incorrectly. So we see, comparing it from this to this looks a lot more like the election that just happened than whatever model I was using at the time. We also see that I actually tested Joe Biden versus Donald Trump using the same model. So we got the Alice Intel poll, which is the most accurate pollster of the election cycle, alongside Richard Barris and the Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen Reports. Using the Alice Intel polling from that time, Trump is ahead by 5.2% in the national popular vote here. Kennedy was like at about 10%, but we do see it was about a 5-point spread at this point in time, and this was like post-debate, and you would have seen a complete landslide victory for President Trump at this point. You can see that this model, when tested, and you also see the disapproval rating spreads here as well, the same ones from the same exact website, the demographic model from Alice Intel, and you also have the margin map here as well. And you can see that Donald Trump absolutely crushes Joe Biden in the Electoral College. Joe Biden still wins New Hampshire, which probably would have overestimated him in the state. Trump would have picked off Maine at large. He would have won Minnesota, New Mexico, Virginia, which all had polling showing it being roughly these margins. The polling this year was a lot better than it was in 2020. And there were a lot of polls at the time showing Trump, ahead in Minnesota or even ahead in Virginia. I'm pretty sure he even took the RCP lead in the state of Virginia at one point. And even in New Mexico, you had polling that was pretty competitive. And Biden's approval rating relative to Harris in the state is actually far worse off in like Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona because of the border issue. You could see Trump would have won Texas by almost 16 points, Florida by 15. And again, this was like an early poll from the time. I'm pretty sure if we used our polling, which probably also would have been fairly accurate, the SoCal poll, this result would be even worse if we were to use that. I'm pretty sure New Hampshire at that point would be flipping into the Democrat column. New Jersey would have been single digits, just like the polling actually showed it being the case. And so really funny enough, the polling that was out at the time is actually matching up with this, despite us not even using the polling. Trump probably would have maxed out with Hispanics and would have probably had more room to gain with black voters and white voters compared relative to the actual 2024 results. That's why Trump is not doing that much better in Florida or Texas compared to what he did in the 2024 election, because he presumably would have maxed out with that voting group. You could see he posts really good margins in some of these states here, which is very, very fascinating. And he wins Virginia, Minnesota. So the Trump-Biden election would have been a complete disaster. He even wins Nebraska second and Maine at large in this cycle. And he does make New Jersey and Delaware basically competitive states. And New Hampshire probably is overestimating Joe Biden. He probably would have flipped it in this matchup. Only 25,000 votes separated Kamala Harris in the state. So she probably would have ended up winning New Hampshire. Maybe he would have had better appeal. That is an unknown question that we may never know. But this is what the model shows for the Trump-Biden matchup, and was pretty similar to the election predictions that I was showing at the time as well, when I was using a model that was similar to this one, which used approval ratings and whatnot. And so now, looking at the electoral map, Trump would have crushed Biden. He still defeated Kamala Harris. This is my improved model, which is significantly better than the one that I used this cycle. Looks a lot more like the actual election. And we see now for 2028, currently my forecast has JD Vance beating Gavin Newsom, who are both the betting odds favorites in the general election to win their primaries. I actually have right now JD Vance winning the popular vote by 4.5. Usually the party that wins a election tends to be a lot more popular than the party that loses right after the election cycle. And so that is the reasoning behind that. So we see, JD Vance basically matches his margin in the state of Texas from 2024. JD improves in the state of Florida. He improves in Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Ohio, Iowa are bigger victories. Wisconsin's about a 6-point win in this election, as well as Michigan 6.2, Pennsylvania 6 points. Minnesota is a very, very tight state. He barely loses the state to Gavin. New Mexico just a 2-point race there. Arizona about 6 points. And this is without even the approval rating spreads. I mean, if Vance is significantly more popular in the state of Georgia, Georgia may not even be in the competitive side as of right now. So that's what we're kind of looking at in this election forecast. No approval rating spreads just yet. And this is just the demographic model is my own hypothesis, not from any real polling. Now, this demographic model for 2024 for Kamala when I tested the election is the same one that I used to aggregate all the polling, by the way. And I was still able to get a result that was significantly closer to the actual election that ended up occurring. And remember, guys, this does not factor in, certain events like the assassination attempt, which is why I think Pennsylvania was the most Republican out of the 3 Rust Belt states this time around. If it wasn't for the assassination attempt, Michigan probably would have been the most Republican Rust Belt state out of the 3. So we see that, Trump beat Kamala Harris. He would have beat Joe Biden fairly easily. And now we have a blanket map for 2028, which right now I have JD Vance winning quite easily as of right now. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.